I wanted to read this to you. I suppose I could send it to you if you want it. This is called The 5 Colors of the Face. And it's a little bit more explanation of what we were doing last time when we were looking at each other's complexion, looking at the colors of the skin. And I just wanted to give you a little bit better understanding. This comes from the book The Yellow Emperor's Classic, which is an ancient text, and it's a conversation between the Yellow Emperor and his physician Shibo. And it's not even this.
Is it real or is it just a make-up story? Is it historical?
It's historical. Okay. Whether it's real or not, I will leave that to your imagination.
Okay.
Because a lot of the texts are so old that they are talking about, characters that are, this is thousands of years ago. And, people don't all agree on whether these are real or not. Okay. Let's see. Essentially, when we observe the color of the face, the color of the skin in general, I guess I wanted you to realize that we're not necessarily looking at their skin tone or their ethnicity. Okay? We kind of have some predisposed ideas about what color different ethnicities are. And sometimes those things are true. But there is another color that we are looking at here. And we are looking at the color that shines through your skin. Your skin is transparent or translucent. I should put it that way. The skin is translucent. And it covers your flesh and blood vessels and all kinds of other tissue. And a color shines through the skin. That is the color that we're talking about. Okay? All right.
Is the face the best part of
Well,
the
it's certainly
body?
the easiest because there's a lot of it and we see it, as opposed to, looking at other parts of the body that might be covered by clothing. You could certainly see it on the hands. But I think probably the face is better because you're going to see, for instance, you'll see the eyes, you'll see laugh lines and things like that, and there's just more opportunity to see them. Okay. So Shibo, the physician, explains to the Yellow Emperor, if the face manifests redness, one must distinguish it between a moist red and one without brightness. The normal color should be like cloth wrapping cinnabar. Okay, so we're talking. Do you know what cinnabar looks like? It's almost this color red. That's kind of an orange red. If I can find another red.
So it's a cool red, a little undertone red?
It's not a cool red. Actually,
A yellow undertone
it's got a little bit of a, it's not quite this color. This is an orange red too. Maybe this is better. Yeah. Okay. This is red. This is definitely red. Okay? Yeah. It's probably almost between these two colors. Okay?
What about this one here? Just a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's it. That's a color of cinnabar.
Good job.
This is the color of cinnabar. Okay? Yeah, not the yellow, but the red. Okay? If the face manifests redness, one must distinguish between a moist red and one without brightness. That's also a distinguishing feature. A distinguishing description is distinguish between a moist red and one without brightness. Okay? Because that's the difference between health and disease. Okay? Because all of these colors represented in the skin have a healthy representation and a or a disharmonious representation or an unhealthy representation. Okay, so we want to see one that looks vibrant. It should have moistness. Okay, so and not one without brightness. The normal color should be like silk cloth or a very sheer cloth covering cinnabar, that color red. Okay. If the face is white, it should be lustrous, like goose feathers. It should not look like the color of salt. Okay, do you know what the difference is here? Goose feathers are, they're shimmery almost in their whiteness, okay? Whereas salt is very dull, right? Okay, that's the difference. If the face is green, it should be like jade, and in this case they're talking about kind of a bright green jade. The color of the green on that, what is that, healing the chakra energy system? See the green, the second color down? That color jade, or green? Well, that color jade, because there are many colors of jade. Okay, if the face is green, it should be like jade, not blue-green with a dark tinge to it. Does that mean something? If the face is yellow, it should be like wrapping silk cloth over realgar, which is, I know, not, it's almost like that color of that sign. That's a really good example, actually. That is a very good color. It's a little on the dirty side, but, okay. If the face is yellow, it should be like wrapping silk cloth over realgar, and unlike the dirt of the yellow river. Okay? So there's a vibrancy to the yellow as opposed to a dull, dirty yellow, right? So that's the other thing that you should be looking for when you're looking at somebody's face. Recognize the color, but do you see vitality as well? Okay? All right. If the face is black, it should be like black lacquered paint and unlike ashes in a grave. You don't want to look like that. Ever. Okay. In other words, the colors of the face should have a brightness and a clarity to them and in an expression of healthy chi of the organs. They should not look dull or flat, which is generally a sign of imbalance. All right. Oh, and I looked that up. Realgar is an orange, orangey red pigment that they use for tanning. I don't know if it's
What's the title of the book? The Yellow Emperor?
The Yellow Emperor's Classic.
Oh.
Yeah. It's also called the Huangdi Neiji. You really want it. Huangdi is the Yellow Emperor. The Neijing is the classic.
I love how the author tied it to real things.
Yes. Well, it's very poetic. It's a very metaphorical and poetic philosophy. Yeah. I like that too. Okay. All right. What is next? All right. So, we talked a little bit last week about the 5-element body types, and we'll talk more about that tonight. I think after we talk about some of the foods. Yeah. Okay. Last week, I handed out I don't remember what I called it, actions of the 5 tastes or functions of the 5 tastes. Okay.
You sent it again.
I sent it again. It's just a shorter version.
They're different.
They're for the most part the same. I think they're just, one is more of a
That's right, we
condensed.
did have it. I was like,
I guess what I wanted to reiterate here is that the tastes that we're going to start talking about when we are talking about food essentially are what we are using to balance the body. Because for the most part, what this form of nutrition really does is it balances yin and yang. It balances hot and cold energies. It balances disharmony to create harmony, or to, from an unbalanced situation to a balanced situation. So for the most part, we are always going to use an opposite to restore balance. Okay? What I said in the beginning, however, is that, remember, we're going to use all 5 of the elements with every meal for perfect health. But what happens when we become unhealthy? When we get
need more of one of them.
Yes. So we need more yin or more yang to restore that balance. So you can think of it in terms of choosing from one of the elements, or you can think of it in terms of choosing a yin or yang property of your food, or a yin or yang property of your food preparation method to restore balance.
Mm-hmm.
That is our goal. So, just very quickly, when you're using the 5 tastes, you want to think of them as both their thermal nature, meaning are they hot or cold or neutral, and then think of them in terms of their remedial action. Are they warming or cooling in the body? Are they moistening? Are they drying? Is it astringent? Is it purgative or antibiotic or dispersing or tonifying? Things that we went over last time. Right? The spicy taste, remember we broke into 2 categories, warming and spicy, and cooling and spicy. I'm pretty sure we did get to all 5 tastes, right? We did. Okay. All right. I guess I wanted to go over the general uses. The spicy taste essentially is going to stimulate digestion. It's going to open the lungs and regulate mucus-forming food. So it's a really good taste to add to your cooking to mitigate some of the properties of other foods. Like a lot of foods that we really like are very sticky and cloying. So adding the spicy taste, one, improves our digestion, but it both does that in terms of improves the function of the stomach and spleen, but it also essentially breaks up some of the cloying nature of other foods. Okay? So it's a really nice, that's why we add spices to foods. It makes them more digestible. And we all understand that because we know what it's like to cook with them. But in terms of this particular medicine, we can use that spicy taste medicinally or therapeutically for particular people, for instance, who are sensitive to very cloying foods. Okay? Or people who produce a lot of mucus. Okay, so who might that be? Somebody who has a cold. It's a perfect example. Who else?
Smokers.
Children often produce a lot of mucus. But why? Something's unbalanced. Well, a lot of times it's from allergies. It's from food sensitivities and allergies. So the spicy taste is a therapeutic food or a therapeutic taste to mitigate that problem, to bring those kids back to balance.
Would you, because kids don't really like to eat like real spicy food like
That's
they would
true.
eat, what would be like a mild thing you can use for them, like maybe like
Well,
herbal?
cinnamon is a mild, yummy spice. You know, I mean, kids don't really like cloves as much, but you can certainly add ginger to many things, and kids will tolerate that.
It's a little spicy when you put it in the
Yeah.
food, you know.
Well, and it depends on, again, how you cook it and how long you cook it. So ginger is one of those things, the longer you cook it, the spicier it gets. So small amounts, not cooked for very long.
Garlic?
Absolutely, same thing. Garlic, yeah. Yeah, kids generally don't like those, but it depends on the kid. And some kids grow up eating spicy food, so you know, they don't have any problem with it. Okay. Remember, the spicy taste is also diaphoretic, meaning it produces sweat. So again, therapeutically, you would use it for what?
Fever.
To break a fever through sweat. And I wrote in already on here, it lightens the heavy nature of grains and legumes, nuts and seeds. It just makes them more digestible is what that says. Okay? And then the last thing that I think is really important about the spicy taste is its unique quality in that it expels or destroys parasites. Okay? And the number one example of that would probably be garlic. We know that garlic does kill many kinds of parasites. It also kills fungus and bacteria and all kinds of other things. But that's a unique property that the spicy taste has. Okay. All right. I wanted to go over again those who are most benefited from that spicy taste. Sluggish, dull, lethargic people, people who are excessively heavy, those with a damp mucus condition of either the lungs or the colon. So you can have phlegm from an upper respiratory thing, or you can have mucus in the stomach and intestines either from an allergic condition or some other inflammatory condition, like inflammatory bowel conditions. Okay. Again, the spicy taste is appropriate for that. And then, of course, those with cold signs, and in this case, I didn't mean like having an upper respiratory, but I meant people who are internally cold. Okay. The spicy taste is the appropriate taste for that. So, any ideas of what foods you might try to warm someone? A spicy taste. Cayenne is an interesting substance because it does initially warm the person, and it initially brings heat to the surface of the skin, but ultimately it actually cools the body down. It can make you sweat. That is partially why, but the other reason is that it dilates the blood vessels, and in doing so, the blood vessels tend to move closer to the surface of the skin and vent heat from the body. So I wouldn't choose it as a way to warm a body. It's actually a way to cool the body. However, I want to say about the spicy taste of cayenne, medicinally, therapeutically, because it dilates the blood vessels and moves heat from the surface, what do you think it might do? Heat oxygen,
circulation,
high blood pressure. I think it's a possibility. Improve circulation, very much so. And in doing so, it does one other thing. It helps to regulate the heart, or it improves the function of the heart. There's one other aspect, though, particularly on the extremities in the body. Because it vents heat, it's particularly good for the joints. Yes. Even with really hot joints. That's why those capsicum lotions are so good.
is capsaicin the one you said?
Capsaicin.
Is that the same as a cayenne?
Yes.
And
It's made with some kind of a capsicum. Some red hot pepper. Yes. They work really well. Okay? Internally or topically. What is the name? Capsaicin is the name. It's like a brand.
You see it a lot of times in lotions when you do like the farm market, they sell that special one.
They'll tell me they're cold. The person is, they say, I'm always cold, or my hands and feet are always cold. Okay? Or they're always, they always have, a sweater on, socks on, long sleeves, everything, and it's summertime. Everybody's wearing a t-shirt and shorts. Okay? Yeah.
So then we wouldn't give them cayenne, is that?
Correct. They will ultimately. Somebody who's cold, though, just in terms of the spices, I like to kind of talk about those a little bit because they all tend to warm the body except for cayenne, but they warm different parts of the body. where they go in the body. What organs do they go? Yeah. Well, that's a good consideration. So somebody who's always hot, cayenne and, the peppers might be fine, because they also cool the person down. You want to know where they're from. Are they hot in the upper body, or do they have hot stomach, or do they have, heat in their lower body, like, and have urinary tract infection? But generally, principally, yes, you would tell them to avoid spices or eat smaller amounts of them, or eat certain ones and not up.
Now, on your sheet, you have the cayenne peppers and the warm spicy foods,
Yes.
and that should be under the cooling spicy
Well,
foods?
They are warm and spicy, but ultimately, they do the reverse, and it's sort of like this. It's sort of like this. They start off as hot, and if you eat more and more of them, your body temperature will actually, maybe go up, and you will get a little bit of heat. So they are warm and spicy foods, but ultimately, their action in the body is cool. Yeah. Okay. So
Is that true for all
I
peppers?
guess the way to look at it is kind of on a continuum, and it's a little bit of